1986, the Denver Broncos set a championship beat that drove them all the way to Super Bowl 21. Broncos were talented and tough. They won the AFC Championship with one of the most electrifying comebacks in pro football history, created legends, and realized dreams along the way.
Super Bowl! Super Bowl! We're going to Super Bowl!
Over 63,000 fans packed Denver's Mile High Stadium on January the 18th, 1987 for a pre-Super Bowl pep rally. This show of support was further evidence of the unique relationship between the Broncos and Denver, and it propelled the newly crowned AFC champions all the way to Pasadena. It had been a season of achievement for owner Pat Bowlen and head coach Dan Reeves.
You got a terrific year, Dan.
Well, it's been fun. It's been fun. This team has responded every time they've had to. We led it all year in our division,
right.
So you can't ask for much more from a group of guys than that.
The Broncos had taken their first steps down the road to the Super Bowl nearly 6 months earlier when summer camp opened in Greeley, Colorado. And for Dan Reeves, his staff, and a talented Denver squad, 1986 would be a proving ground.
After the last 2 seasons we've had, where we've won 13 and 11 games last year, and we really don't have anything to show for it. I think it's added a little more incentive for us to go out and, especially in the offseason, work hard. And with the type of team that we have, we want to show people out there that we do have a great football team.
Ace left topo, double 836 OT on one. Ready? We know deep down inside that we can't be happy with anything less than the Super Bowl.
On January the 25th, 1987, only the New York Giants stood between the Denver Broncos and their dream of a world championship.
Be red!
Red 28! Red 28!
John Elway touchdown run helped the Broncos construct a halftime lead. However, the Giants demolished Denver's momentum and eventually wore Denver down. As the sun set over the Rose Bowl, it became apparent that the Giants, not the Broncos, were this year's team of destiny. Denver lost 39-20, but not without a fight. Though hopelessly behind, the Broncos hustled and fought, trying to fight off the inevitable. In the end, the World Championship star that had guided this team all season shined over another. But amid the disappointment was the fact that one loss couldn't tarnish such a brilliant season. Together, this team won the tough Western Division for the second time in 3 seasons, and the championship of the American Football Conference. When the Broncos returned home on the Monday following the Super Bowl, over 100,000 Bronco maniacs turned out for a ticker-tape celebration that proved the relationship between these Broncos and their fans isn't based solely on winning or losing. The NFL has never witnessed such a colorful love affair between a team and a town. And together in 1986, they would drive to a dream. For more than 2 decades, the Broncos have reigned over the Denver landscape. Each new year is greeted with a wide-eyed enthusiasm that makes the relationship between the Broncos and Denver special. Sold out since 1969, there are over 62,000 fans on the waiting list for season tickets. Throughout the Rockies, the only thing worse than not having a ticket for a Bronco game is not using it.
In attendance today, 76,082 people, meaning there are 46 tickets unused.
Been here since 70 and I've always been the same. Crazy.
Really?
We have great fans. They're always there to support us and get loud, and we've got an exciting stadium to play in because if you've ever been there, you see that it goes up very steep, and so it seems like all 78,000 people are right on top of you, and I think that can be a little intimidating. So we've got a great record at home, so there must be some kind of advantage there.
For Roland Jones, the Broncos and their Orange Army, the 1986 season began in Mile High Stadium against the arch-rival Los Angeles Raiders.
Elway in the count, takes the snap, has a little protection, runs up in the pocket, throwing it toward the end zone for Watson. He's open. Touchdown!
John Elway to Steve Watson opened the scoring, but the Raiders shot right back and gained the upper hand. Los Angeles built several sizable leads, but couldn't extinguish the confidence of the Bronco Maniacs.
We're going to win it anyhow.
3 wide receivers, a couple of running backs, and Elway, who could be a little bit of everything. And hand the ball to Sewell, and Sewell wants to throw the pass to John Elway. He does it, the 15, behind the 5, touchdown!
The offense kept the Raiders close, and in the third quarter, the Denver defense stirred up their own wave of excitement. Ken Woodard stripped Marcus Allen of the football and raced 12 yards for a touchdown. Each phase of the team contributed to Denver's comeback. And in the fourth quarter, the special teams helped restore order in the Mile High Kingdom. Special team MVP Darren Como forced a fumble by Napoleon McCallum that gave John Elway all the field position he needed to drive Denver into the lead.
In the shotgun, 3rd and goal at the 7. Elway's drop, and the pass, and it is caught. Gene Lang at the goal line. Touchdown, Broncos lead!
The Broncos had demonstrated tremendous character while coming from behind to post their first win of 1986. An encouraging display that would serve them well as the drive to a dream continued.
Bring the heat. Time to turn it up.
After a win in Pittsburgh on Monday night, Denver invaded Philadelphia. Defensive back Mike Harden, number 31, registered a safety and scored a touchdown on an interception. The Eagles never knew what hit them as Denver's offensive line pried open huge holes. And number 47, Gerald Wilhite and Sammy Winder shot through them for over 200 yards rushing. Winder, number 23, scored 2 touchdowns, and Elway added another to a wide-open Dave Studdard on the tackle eligible. Denver won 33-7. Defenders like Carl Mecklenburg and the rest of the Orange Crush defense hit everything that moved.
Gotta watch out. These guys are coming low in there. I got punched in the in a pile, so be careful in there. They're not fooling around. I'm all right.
You all right? Hey, Carl, what happened out there? You all right?
Yeah, he just scrambled my eggs a little there. He'll be all right.
In only 4 NFL seasons, Carl Mecklenburg has gone from an unheralded draft pick to a multi-positioned All-Pro.
I've always been overlooked. I mean, I was a 12th round draft choice coming out of college. I had to walk on in college. So everybody likes to prove people wrong, and I feel like I've proved some people wrong.
Carl's aggressive nature on the field is a stark contrast to his quiet and reserved nature off it. This Clark Kent becomes Superman in a Broncos jersey, a fact he first demonstrated back in 1984 against the Raiders. It was called the hit, and though a star wasn't exactly born on that day, the impact and potential of this former Minnesota pre-med major had left its mark on the Broncos staff.
When Carl first came into our training camp, we realized that he had some unusual skills. He was a guy that kind of was in between the speed of a linebacker you'd like and not quite big enough for a down lineman, yet he could rush the passer like a lineman. He could make tackles like a linebacker, and he could cover the field like a linebacker. So Joe and all the defensive coaches came up with some different schemes to put Carl in that really caused some problems. He is aggressive, but he's also extremely bright and can handle all the places that we put him.
Well, if it'll be slide double winger, it'll be trip, so it'll either be mayday or slide.
Against the Patriots in Week 4, Mecklenburg spanned the entire field to register 13 tackles and 2.5 sacks. The defense turned the tide in the second quarter when number 43, Steve Foley, intercepted the 44th pass of his career, the most in Bronco history. New England's offense never recovered.
Jesus dropped to the 25. The pressure. Roland Jones will get the sack at the 27. Out the way! Get him, baby! Hey!
John Elway overcame a shaky start and confidently steered the Broncos to a 27-20 win.
The Broncos try to get the lead back. The handoff this time is to Winder at 5. Goal line.
The Broncos were 4-0, and one of the big reasons was their head coach, Dan Reeves.
People want to play for him. The man respects you, and he seems to care about you, and he cares about the team. He wants the team to be successful.
Success and Dan Reeves have been synonymous since he first entered the NFL back in 1965. Reeves, number 30, was a free agent out of South Carolina who made the Dallas Cowboys with a unique blend of versatility and determination. As a player, Reeves used his fiercely competitive nature and understanding of the Dallas system to the fullest. Then, as an assistant and offensive coordinator for Tom Landry during the 1970s, he helped Dallas win 2 world championships.
You halfbacks cut inside of me now.
In 1981, Dan Reeves became the Broncos head coach, and not surprisingly, success followed.
Let's go. Do it off a full ace right clock and go double ace 3702. Go weak.
Reeves has won more games than any other Denver head coach, and his offensive playbook has always featured deception and finesse as entertaining and exciting weapons. Each season, these tricks are refined and streamlined around the various talents of his players. Reeves always seems to find another way of exploiting the limitless skills of quarterback John Elway, whose powerful arm and exceptional mobility keep propelling the Bronco offense to new heights. Elway's cast of receivers also made this offensive evolution possible. Veteran Steve Watson, number 81, was second in receptions, and at 6'4", a giant among the rest of the Bronco wideouts.
The 2 midgets. Listen to this. We're bad, though. The midgets. We catch the rock. The midget twins. But we catch the rock. We catch the rock.
Mark Jackson and Vance Johnson, number 82, might have been short, but both were long on talent. In his second season, Johnson came back from a knee injury to give the Broncos a dangerous deep threat, and rookie Mark Jackson added more of the same, along with the ability to catch the ball in tight places. Compared to the midgets, rookie Orson Mobley, number 89, was a 6'5", 250-pound giant of a tight end who terrorized secondaries with his speed and power. Fullback Gerald Wilhite, number 47, led the Broncos with 64 receptions. And together with Clarence Kay and Clint Sampson, Denver's receivers stretched their various sizes and pass-catching abilities to the limits. With one of the NFL's most exciting attacks and a 4-0 record, it was time for Dan Reeves to show his former mentor what he had learned. On the season's 5th Sunday, Tom Landry brought his Dallas Cowboys into Mile High Stadium. For the former teacher and prize pupil, it was the first meeting since Reeves had left Dallas. It quickly became apparent that the student had learned his lessons well. The Cowboy offense found no room to run, no place to hide, and nowhere to throw. Number 20, Louis Wright, picked off 2 Cowboy passes, and Rulon Jones scored a safety. Elway burned the Cowboy secondary with 200 yards and completions and 3 touchdown passes. Gerald Wilhite scored 3 times during a 29-14 shellacking of the Dallas Cowboys. It was Denver's 5th straight and most impressive victory yet, and it showcased the talents of defensive lineman Rulon Jones, number 75, who was sacking quarterbacks at a record pace.
Sacking the quarterbacks, our home run or a touchdown, whatever you want to call it. I mean, that's the exciting thing about defensive line play.
He's only about a 250-pound defensive end, which is not big by today's standard. He's a little bit of an unorthodox type of defensive end. He's not a guy that just tries to overpower people. He uses a lot of finesse stuff. He's one of the few guys that I've seen in professional football that are able to go as hard in the last few minutes of the game that he does at the start of the game. His stamina is unbelievable.
In his 7th and finest season, number 75 would go on to set a new club record with 13.5 quarterback traps. On the season's 6th Sunday, Jones and Mecklenburg helped Denver to drop Dan Fouts 5 times. Nickelback Tony Lilly, number 22, intercepted 2 passes, and the Broncos finalized a 31-14 win after Mike Harden returned a 4th quarter punt for a touchdown. After 6 consecutive weeks of winning, the defense was carrying on a Bronco tradition. Cornerback Mike Harden.
Over the years, Denver defenses have been known for being great defenses, and I think the young guys that come into this kind of system automatically, pick up on that pride and that tradition that the other veterans exhibit.
Much of this tradition and success is linked to Denver's scholarly defensive coordinator.
The defense, because of Joe Collier, has remained the same through the years.
See if 81 is over there in the huddle over there. They do. I want to go 14 rounds, 3 yards, Bronco 5.
Joe has always done a great job of using the personnel, and I think that's the key to coaching, is to try to get an offense or a defense built around the people that you have.
Somebody a few years ago put the tag on us that we were a bend that don't break defense, and I don't think any defensive coach likes to be tagged that way. You don't like to bend at all. You like to stop them every time if you can. We feel that we're as aggressive as any defensive team. I think when you're playing defense in the NFL, you're aggressive. That's all there is to it. You have to be, or you're not going to survive.
In 1986, Collier blended youngsters like Simon Fletcher, Greg Cragen, Andre Townsend, Ken Woodard, Randy Robbins, Tony Lilly, and Freddie Gilbert, number 90, with proven veterans such as defensive MVP Mike Harden, Louis Wright, Steve Foley, Steve Wilson, Jim Ryan, and Tom Jackson.
We try to out-quick people. We try to get a lot of people to the football. A lot of people think we work on snatching the ball out of runners' hands, but basically what we believe is that if you get enough helmets on a runner, that's when they tend to drop the ball. So, our basic philosophy is to get 7, 8 people to the football. get a lot of hands on arms, and hopefully we pop the ball out eventually.
No other defense in the AFC stopped the run more effectively. Safety Dennis Smith, number 49, earned a trip to the Pro Bowl by separating runners from both the ball and their senses. And from his inside linebacker position, number 98, Ricky Hundley, led the Broncos in tackles. Hundley helped the Broncos collect 36 turnovers, and their season-long assault on opposing passers netted 49 sacks. The Broncos tied an NFL record by producing at least 5 sacks in a game for 5 straight weeks. This achievement came against the New York Jets on Monday night of Week 7. But when the Jets also collected 5 traps, Denver fell to its first defeat of the season, 22-10. Denver regained its winning ways in Week 8 against the Seattle Seahawks. The Orange established a new NFL record by posting their 6th straight game with at least 5 sacks. John Elway's 321-yard passing performance ignited a 20-13 victory.
Running out of the pocket to the right, trying to direct traffic. Wilhite running upfield. Here comes the pass. Wilhite makes the catch across the 40. The handoff this time is to Winder at 5. Goal line, touchdown. Sammy Winder. Sewell in motion. Pitch Winder. Reverse to Sewell. Pitch back to Elway on the flea flicker. Long throw for Vance Johnson at the goal line. Leaping catch. Touchdown. What a play.
With a mid-season record of 7-1, the Broncos were winning everything there was to win, using every way there was to win. And one reason was the exceptional play of their exceptional quarterback, John Elway. In Denver, there is only one Top Gun. In 1986, John Elway's quick release and rocket-like right arm fired 19 touchdown passes. Number 7's heat seekers earned him a trip to the Pro Bowl, and he was the master of the inconceivable pass thrown to the unreachable spot. During 4 NFL seasons, Elway's arm has mystified many cornerbacks, like the Raiders' Lester Hayes.
He has the strongest arm I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen a guy with that kind of arm in my life. The ball moved so fast, I turned my head and it was there.
No other quarterback can beat you in so many different ways. And during the last 3 seasons, no other quarterback has won more games. '86 was John Elway's finest season, but it wasn't a surprise. The signs were always there. At Stanford, Elway finished second in the 1982 Heisman Trophy balloting, even though his team was 5-6 and was beaten by its own band in his final game against Cal. He was the first player taken in the 1983 draft, and his growing maturity since coming to Denver has inspired the confidence of teammates like Louis Wright.
Over these last couple of years, he developed tremendous confidence, and I think that he takes charge in the huddle, and no matter what the odds, he feels like he can get us in the end zone.
Quite often, the play that Elway runs when he's out of the huddle isn't the same one that he originally called, but more often than not, it works. Raider cornerback Mike Haynes.
In the regular situation, when you give the quarterback 4 or 5 seconds to throw the ball, you can have pretty good coverage. But when you give this guy 7, 8 seconds to run around and get open, stop, and him with the arm to get the ball there in a matter of seconds, it can be real tough.
Broncos center Billy Bryan.
He makes things happen. I mean, he's at his best when he's rolling out, all hope's lost, and all of a sudden you see a touchdown pass. You can see it in any of the game films when he starts scrambling. It's just like he just pulls away from everyone else, and he can zig and zag back across the field. You can't catch him and protect him. So while he's going back and forth across the field, you just try and go in a straight line down the field so you'll be in the general vicinity.
Keeping Elway out of harm's way is a full-time job for tackles Dave Studdard, Ken Lanier, and Dan Remsburg. Guard Paul Howard, Keith Bishop, and Mark Cooper, and center Billy Bryan. It's a task that doesn't go unnoticed by Elway.
A bunch of hard-nosed guys that work their tail off, and they don't get nearly as much credit as they deserve. As many things as we ask them to do offensively and different blocking schemes, that they do a great job with it and don't get near the credit that they deserve.
In a Week 9 rematch against the Raiders, Elway's near-perfect protection made him near-perfect as he completed 11 of 12 passes. Over 90,000 watched as Elway's laser-accurate passes and the Broncos' running game kept Los Angeles off balance.
Snap. Handoff. Sewell to the right. Sewell at the 10, at the 5. Sewell scores! Back split. They give the ball a new fake. And Elway throwing it to the left. And Winder driving, scoring.
The offense built a 14-3 lead, and the defense used aggressive tactics to protect it.
Double gap run X blitz. Who else going to leave open? They don't get to him. They ain't going to leave nobody open. Nobody.
Tony Lilly's safety blitz led to a Simon Fletcher blocked field goal. And in all, the Broncos sacked the Raiders 4 times, recovered 2 fumbles, and intercepted 4 passes.
Had a way to hit him! Had a way to hit him!
Come on, let's get him, baby. One more down. Look at him holding!
When Mike Harton picked off his second pass of the game, Denver was on its way to a 21-10 victory and a season sweep of the Raiders. The Broncos were casting an imposing shadow over the rest of the NFL. And with a record of 8-1, the drive to a dream was picking up speed. On the NFL's 10th Sunday, Denver was shocked by San Diego 9-3 as the Broncos failed to score a touchdown. However, the next week against Kansas City, the special teams made sure that wouldn't happen again. A fake punt produced a 43-yard touchdown by Steve Wilson. The blocking of Darren Como, Rick Dennison, Randy Robbins, and others turned Gerald Wilhite loose on a 78-yard punt return. Wilhite scored 3 touchdowns, while the defense scored another. Wait for the snap. Comes back to Kenny. And he is hit and loses the ball. Townsend picks it up at the 5, goes to about the 2, rolls into the end zone with a touchdown. Touchdown! Denver coasted to its 9th victory of the season, but as they approached the crossroads of 1986, the Broncos began making some wrong turns. With 5 games to go, the smooth drive turned into a roller coaster ride, beginning with the New York Giants. The season took a downward plunge during a last-second loss to New York, then bolted skyward the following Sunday against Cincinnati. Newly acquired punter Mike Horan helped to lift Bronco fortunes as the special teams created opportunities. Denver turned the resulting field position into 3 touchdown passes by John Elway as they pulled away to beat the Bengals 34-28. With 3 games remaining, Denver now needed only to beat Kansas City in order to win the Western Division. But Once more, the drive turned treacherous, and they crashed, 37-10. The following Saturday, Denver trailed the Redskins 13-0 before Elway rallied them for a 31-30 heart-stopping victory. For the second time in 3 seasons, the Broncos were champions of the AFC's Western Division. However, this achievement and the resulting optimism seemed to be shattered in the regular season finale at Seattle. Kurt Warner rushed for 192 yards as the Seahawks crushed the Orange before a national TV audience. The dream was turning into a nightmare, and it would be 2 long weeks before the Broncos would have the opportunity to redeem themselves against the New England Patriots in the NFL playoffs.
Okay, men, games like this won by great plays, by great individuals. We got a bunch of them on this team. Let's make sure we're going hard to get them, all right? Let's get at it.
The game quickly escalated into a battle of big plays. Elway dropping and running up in the pocket. He's got room. He's at the 20. He's at the 15. He's at the 10. He's at the 5. He is in the end zone. John Elway. 22 yards. And the Broncos have regained the lead 9-7. Number 7 turned up the decibel level on the largest crowd ever to see a Bronco home game. But just prior to halftime, the roar faded into a worried silence as Elway suffered a severely sprained ankle. When New England built a 17-13 lead, it seemed as though the Broncos' dream had been buried in the ashes of Seattle. However, in Denver, dreams die hard. In the second half, the Broncos overcame Elway's limited mobility by staying on the ground. The offensive line pried open holes in the grudging Patriot defense. And number 23, Sammy Winder, Gene Lang, and Ken Bell popped through them for nearly 200 yards. The difference in this game was that the Broncos were able to run the ball. The Patriots could not. Winder rushed for 102 tough yards, while the Denver defense never allowed the Patriots to cross midfield during the second half. Then, after the thunder, the Elway lightning struck.
Come on, make a big play there. Here we go.
Shotgun, 17-13 New England, and the Patriots jump offside. Elway's got a free down. He throws it long up the far side, looking for Vance Johnson. Touchdown! Vance Johnson's circus catch gave Denver a 20-17 lead. Driven on by the deafening roar of Mile High Stadium, Denver's voracious defense made it final with barely a minute to play. Eason stands at the 5, takes the snap and drops to the goal line. He's sacked in the end zone, folks. Roland Jones right up the middle. Safety. It is a 2-pointer for the Broncos, who lead 22-17. When Jones buried Tony Eason in the end zone, Denver had its first playoff victory in 9 years. The fog of doubt and uncertainty had lifted, and the drive to a dream was back on course and nearing its destination.
Tremendous effort. Got us going that second step, so the first part of our dream is fulfilled. Now we got that second step, all right, so we got to enjoy it.
Ahead lay Cleveland, the AFC Championship game, and one of the most dramatic finishes in pro football history. The drive had narrowed to a trail of dog bones that led the Broncos into Cleveland's scary municipal stadium.
David, this is what we've been working for a long time. Let's go out and have some fun now. Let's get after them for who's going. Let's cover this kickoff, get some field position now.
Defense set the beat. Cleveland opened the scoring, but when opportunity knocked,
Turnover defense! Turnover!
Denver's defense answered. Interceptions by Ricky Hundley, and Jim Ryan, number 50, took the ball out of the hands of Bernie Kosar and put it squarely into the hands of John Elway. In spite of a painfully sprained ankle, number 7 courageously marched the Broncos to their first touchdown. On fourth down, Gerald Wilhite went airborne from the 1 to give Denver the lead. By the fourth quarter, the game was locked in a 13-13 dogfight. But after 3.5 quarters of defensive brilliance, one play threatened to send Denver's Super Bowl hopes crashing to earth. With barely 5 minutes to play, Cleveland took a 20-13 lead. The Broncos had lost. The Browns had won. It seemed just that simple. And whatever hopes Denver had of a comeback seemed to vanish on the following kickoff.
They were getting ready to kick off, and you're down by 7 points, and you know you got to get it in the end zone, and you only got about 5 minutes to do that. You're thinking of the best play if you get good field position. You always assume you're going to get the ball out at least around the 20-yard line. So I was thinking about the play at that particular time. All of a sudden they kick off, and now the ball's on the 2-yard line. Well, you know, the good Lord looks after you because you don't have many plays that you can call on the 2. So yeah, I could make a decision real quick.
Go 95 play.
And the Broncos are 98 yards away from where they need to go. Still 5 minutes to go, but they need something out of this drive.
It was kind of a nervous feeling knowing, you know, what was at stake. And we're just all standing in the huddle, and there was a timeout, and you look out the back of the end zone, and all the cameras and photographers and everybody was aimed right in our huddle.
Bronco guard Keith Bishop.
I just said to the other offensive linemen, the people in the huddle, you know, we had them right where we wanted them.
That was just so neat. You know, it kind of helps you to relax as everybody goes in the huddle. They're like, oh man, we got to go 98 yards. You know, this is it. This could be the end of the season after coming so far. And he comes up with something like that.
Everyone had so much character in the huddle at that time. John Elway came up to the huddle saying, we can make things happen, you know, we're going to make things work. So when you have a quarterback saying that, and an offensive line saying that, you have a tendency to feel confident in ourselves.
Every great athlete needs a moment that separates him from the rest. And for John Elway, that moment arrived with 5 minutes and 44 seconds remaining against the Browns. Into a 5-degree wind chill, and with nearly 80,000 fans barking Denver's doom, Elway stood 98 yards away from greatness.
I never thought that anyone in the huddle doubted that we could do it. We walked in knowing that it was a do-or-die situation and that there was nothing else. It either go to the Super Bowl or we're going home, and we got a chance to do it on this drive, and it was just a matter of getting out of where we got some breathing room.
Watson right, Johnson left, Elway in the end zone and throwing it. It's complete. Winder dives out to the 7-yard line.
All right, 7, baby! All right!
Elway's dropped the play fake, runs up in the pocket, running left. John's across the 20 and out to the 26-yard line. Has the first down.
Come on, guys! Come on, stick it to him, baby! Stick it to him!
3 minutes to go. Elway to pass on first down. The pass for Sewell. Got it and keeps it at the 48-yard line, and was he hammered?
When Steve Sewell caught the pass and put us about midfield, I thought then that we had an excellent chance because we still had plenty of time.
17 wide right.
And whenever you get in that position, you know, you feel like that you can go 40 or 50 yards to score in that short a period of time.
Denver was on such a roll that even the anxious moments only added to the drama.
Elway running up in the pocket and sacked at the 48-yard line. Broncos may have to spend a timeout here. They will. They have one timeout left. They are at the Cleveland 48-yard line. Snap to Elway, and Elway's pass is coming and caught. Mark Jackson, first down at the Cleveland 27-yard line.
and I had to go 20 yards down the field. And I had the whole time in my mind that I was going to run the route as fast as possible because of the pressure that they were getting on John. When I broke, the ball was there. John just drilled it in.
Elway had entered the magic realm that few athletes enter. He was doing whatever he wanted, and the Browns were merely spectators to their own fate. Cleveland head coach Marty Schottenheimer.
I don't think blitzing them would necessarily have changed what transpired because number 7 with the ball in his hand got on a roll. John, as the great quarterbacks will do, got hot.
Elway was running in the footsteps of Unitas, Starr, and Montana.
Come on, Johnny!
As he ran, passed, and coaxed the Broncos to the Cleveland 5-yard line.
42 seconds to go. Broncos at the Cleveland 5. 3rd down and a yard. The snap to Elway. The look, the throw. Touchdown to Mark Jackson. 98.5-yard drive.
Elway's rocket capped the single most significant drive in Denver Broncos history and was one of the most impressive drives in championship history. 98 yards in 15 plays against the wind, the clock, and nearly 80,000 dog-bone tossing fans.
So much of a lift for me, especially scoring in that end zone where the guys were throwing the bones. One bone hit me in particular on the elbow, and it hurt pretty bad. And I don't know if you ever got hit by a bone from the 8th row, but I was thinking about that the whole game, you know. When I scored, I don't usually jeer at the crowd, but I had to give them a little bit of my happiness, and of course they responded.
Elway proved beyond the shadow of a doubt that he had the heart to equal his talent. And when the game spilled into overtime, the Broncos proved they had the heart of a champion.
They don't score. They don't win. They don't win. That's right. You got to do it. You got to find it somewhere.
On 3 plays, Denver turned back Cleveland's only possession, giving the ball back to Elway. The rest is, as they say, history.
Elway dropping on 2nd down, getting some blitz and throwing it up the right side. Mobley across the 50. Now you hear the crowd. 3rd and 12 at the 50. Steps up in the pocket, and here comes the pressure, and John's on the run. He's at the 50. Throws the ball upfield. Fingertip catch at the Cleveland 22-yard line by Watson.
After 6 months of dreaming, Super Bowl reality rode on the foot of place kicker Rich Carlos.
Come on, baby. Come on. Come on, baby.
This will be a 32-yard try to win it in overtime. Ball is down. Carlos's kick is on the way, and it is gone. The Denver Broncos have come from behind to win it in overtime on a 32-yard field goal by the now submerged Rich Carlos, who is swarmed under by his teammates at the 27. And this time, folks, it is no miracle. The Broncos are going to the Super Bowl because they earned the trip. Final score, Denver 23, Cleveland 20.
In 1986, the Denver Broncos electrified the NFL with one of the most memorable championship chases in the 67-year history of the league. They were a team of special men who created magic moments that will last for a lifetime. And though they weren't able to achieve their ultimate dream of a world championship, the entire Bronco organization will always be dedicated to achieving this distinction. In 1987, the drive to a dream will continue, and it promises to be another exhilarating trip.